Thank you very much for everyone who's coming. So it's we really honor. So you're with us, Taj. So and I think let's we introduce with each other first. Yeah. So you can start from there. So we go that way.
Okay. My name is Susanne Polkris. I come from Stockholm, Sweden. I normally work for the Teachers Union, but also in some projects together with talent. So he invited me here to see if there is possibility in the future maybe to work with Kashmiri issues also in Sweden. So I'm here listening and trying to hear if I get any ideas for the future. Yeah.
I'm Sujata. I live in Bombay. I work with the labour movement and work with several unions, and I've been volunteering for the last 34 years with the women's organisation, and I still continue.
My name is Sanjeev. I'm from Kashmir, but I work in Asia Monetary Resource Center. It's a labor organization based in Hong Kong.
Well, as you know, my name is Talat, and I'm a trade unionist. And I have a long history of working with trade union in Sweden. I came to Sweden as a chief labor 15 years ago, 17 years ago, and then I learned what the trade union is, and got the equal rights after struggle, like equal rights as a Swedish or European. And now we are setting up a Kashmir Labor Education Foundation in Kashmir. So we can, because it's as well, today is like a topic is Kashmir is divided. So we have to consider, Kashmir is divided and there's a dispute, and that's, okay, we don't talk that much politics. But right now, today's topic is the trade union situation in divided Kashmir.
I'm Khalid Mahmood from Labour Education Foundation from Pakistan. We work with the former sector workers, support them in organizing and their progressive work. And we also provide legal support and do some publications for the trade unions. We have links in Kashmir. Part controlled by Pakistan with some trade unions and purposes.
My name is Mohammed Taj, and my job is the bus driver in Yorkshire, Bradford, which is about maybe 25 miles from here. So I'm nearly home. This evening I will be. And I am employed by a private bus company, which employs 70,000 people in the UK. Train drivers, bus drivers, they run the trains, buses, and they employ 70,000 people in Canada and America. So altogether they employ 140,000. And it's all trade union recognized, all the 70,000 of them in the UK. And of course we've been helping, assisting our trade union colleagues in America and Canada, because the American bosses, managers would not recognize unions. So we've worked in solidarity over the last 5 years. Now they've got recognition as well in line we've done. So basically, I believe this international solidarity work together. My own union is called Unite the Union. It has 1.5 million members, and recently there was a merger 3-4 years ago between two unions, Amicus and Transport Workers Union, and that made up the big. So we are the largest in the UK. Currently, my role is that I was elected as president of the Trade Union Congress, which has 54 trade unions, membership of 6.5 million members. And the presidency lasts 1 year. And I was the first person from the South Asian subcontinent to be elected, and first Kashmiri from Pakistani side of it, first Muslim, first bus driver. So there was about 4 or 5 records at the same time after 143 years. So the TUC has been in existence. It's an umbrella body for all the trade union movement in the UK. And he represents 6.5 million. Of course, my job is as a bus driver. My father was a farmer, a peasant in Kashmir. He then became a truck driver and a bus driver. So I'm just carrying on family traditions of being a bus driver. And I sit on our executive council of the Unite Union, representing black and ethnic minority members throughout the UK, and I'm elected directly by them through a secret ballot every 3 years.
My name is Dana Tamil. I'm a councillor in Rochdale. Originally, I'm from Kashmir as well. So I'm here to see and then I'm trade unions. I've been in unions and white collar workers. And now that I'm retired, I'm going to join Unite. I wanted to work with them. I worked with the union in Illinois on various capacities like shop steward and that sort of thing. As the unions is a very soft, non-religious union. They're like, it's a really public service kind of thing. But I'm here to see what possibilities exist. One of the movements between Indians and Pakistanis and Kashmiris is to build confidence measures, CBMs. And they are building confidence measures through sending onions and garlics and material across border. So obviously there is alternative, and see if the unions can cross the ceasefire line as well, and then work together. And then obviously I'm very much interested in that, and I do live on the border, and I've seen some shelling and reaction and displacement of people and that sort of thing, and I feel very strong about it. So even though I live here and I'm through trade unions here, and I would like to see some sort of unity, if you like, of our co-existence, our co-work between unions of both sides. Children know where Kashmir is.
Yeah, I guess after this. I'm Dada from Philippines, and I work as an organizer, especially for the metal sector.
My name is Crystal, and I work with Sanjeev at the Asian Monitor Research Center based in Hong Kong. And I work on our gender program, and as part of that program, we're looking at how to make women workers participate more in decision-making processes to improve their situations. And one of the places where we're trying to do that, trying to build leadership of women workers, is India. And one of the places that we also want to specifically work in India is Kashmir.
So she has come here to monitor how can we increase women's participation
In
in
Kashmir.
building the socialist struggle for Kashmir. We lack women's participation.
Yeah, we want
I see it.
we want to work there, but it's so far been a little difficult to
Yeah.
start because of the difficulties there.
My name is Ripon Chaudhary. I'm from Bangladesh Free Trade Congress, and also working for the Bangladesh Occupation Safety and Environment Foundation, OSHI. And I'm quite interested to be part of this discussions about Kashmir and the struggle, the democratic struggle is going on for freedoms and dignity and honor. So I'm very happy to be understanding the situation and how we can work together for solidarity of the people in Kashmir's in the struggles. Thank you.
My name is Shamus Rahman, and I'm based in Oldham now for about 25 years. Originally I come from Pakistani occupied Kashmir, and I am basically involved, have been involved in Kashmiri struggle in different capacities in Britain. I'm also academically I'm interested in the diaspora politics of Kashmiris in Britain, and also the development of transnational links. And I'm very much interested in this idea of Labour Foundation. We really like to participate in whatever way, whatever contribution I can make to make this happen.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, everyone. So the pattern of the meeting today is we have from Indian side of Kashmir, he will give us some ground report, what his trade union situation is and what the laws are. He's been recently to Kashmir twice in the last 6 months or a year. Yeah. And the same, the Nisar Shah, who's supposed to be with us from Pakistani side of Kashmir, couldn't get the visa. So we're going to take him on Skype, and he will explain us the 10 to 15 minutes. And then it's Sanjeev will explain the Indian side. Then I want Khalid for his work, because they was working before with Pakistan Labour Education Foundation in Kashmir. But now we have rebranded, and we want only Kashmir Labour Education Foundation working inside Kashmir. So that's we need Khalid's full supervision and help to organize this. Then we'll open the debate, and then you come in. So it is right. Okay. So let me just.
I would like to introduce myself. I'm Nisar Shah from Raj Kashmir, and this is good opportunity for me to share the situation of the workers in Raj Kashmir. Maybe all of you know that the state of Jammu and Kashmir is divided in four parts. Two parts are directly in the under control of Pakistan. One part is under control of China, and one part is under control of India. I want to specially talk on the situation of Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. These both parts are directly in the control of Pakistani government. One part, which called Azad Kashmir, is also a so-called independent government. But in fact, this government is not independent. This government is ruled by Pakistani bureaucracy, and most of the top positions in government, especially Chief Secretary, the Inspector General of Police, the Accountant General, and other important posts are directly under control from bureaucracy of Pakistan. And there is another ministry in Pakistani government, which called the Ministry of Kashmir Affairs. This ministry deals all issues regarding the Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Gilgit-Baltistan is not an independent status. It is directly in control of Pakistan. But the situation in Gilgit-Baltistan is most worse than Azad Kashmir. In Azad Kashmir, in fact, the government which called an independent government, but in fact this government is also dependent on the Ministry of Kashmir Affairs. And this government is also dependent on Chief Secretary and other land officers, IG police, and also the Accountant General, which is working from Pakistan, and this is the chief of finance related issues. So, if there is any problem in Azad Kashmir, the government have only administrative role, but all decisions are taken from Pakistan, and the Pakistani bureaucracy is controlling the situation. In Azad Kashmir, especially regarding the trade union situation, in Azad Kashmir, around 26% workers are from services sector, and some of the workers are from industrial sector. The major industrial cities are Mirpur and Bhimber, and some other cities, but the earlier in 1995, some left-wing political parties tried to formulate the trade union in Mirpur, but they were not able to success to continue this trade union network. In services sector, which is a major sector, this sector have some associations, especially in health, in education, and also in electricity department and in forest department. There are some associations are exist, and these associations are working in a controlled parameters, but they are demanding that they have some rights. Trade union, they should be some rights of trade union, and now the situation is totally changed, and around a big association is a teacher association, and in our country, the government is spending some money on education department, and most of the people are related from education department, and in education department, around 31,000 teachers are working, and they are working in association, and they are very strong association, especially in the sense of trade union work. And second big organization is the Health Employees Association, which is second biggest association, and this association is around 10,000 membership, and they are very active with other associations, especially in electricity department, in work for PWD power and works department, thermal works department, which have only one, which is only department which have really trade union in this department, and the workers of this trade union are in fact labor, and they are working on roads, and they are constructing roads and other bridges and road network, road related network. They are working on this network. But they have also lot of problems because they don't have social security, they don't have old age benefit, they don't have any health benefits. So their condition is also worse. And now in these days, around 50 days, there is a strong strike in our country, and all workers are united under the flag of all all workers, all employee action committee. All employee action committee is a joint committee of all associations and one trade union about Colonel Works Department. And this action committee is representing to all organizations. And now they are on strike. They have given an chapter of demand to the government, but there is a problem about the chapter of demand. Government is saying, especially Prime Minister and President and Health Minister are saying that we have no power and we are not in position to accept the chapter of demand of the worker, because all resources anything in the budget, and they cannot fulfill the demands of the workers. So this is a very bad situation. In one side there is a government, and they call that we are government, and other side they are saying that they don't have any power. So workers are on strike. Now the government is using a very strong action against the workers, and they are saying that we will fire you from your job, and they are also threatening the workers that they will not give the salary to the workers, they will continue this strike. So in this situation, it is very important to work on the workers' issue, and there is no any other organization which is working on the labor issue. Earlier in 2005, I speak with the support of Labor Education Foundation from Pakistan. We made a network. It was we made a network called Labor Relief Campaign, and we did lot of work for the welfare of the workers. We construct some offices, and we also deliver some kind of medicines and other emergency related relief for the workers. And at that time we decided that we will formate a Kashmir Labour Center for work on the specific on workers issue. And we couldn't continue that project because of some problems. Now we again decided to work with the collaboration of Labor Education Foundation, and now we have initiative for the Kashmir Labor Education Foundation, and the Kashmir Labor Education Foundation now is registered with the relevant department in all Kashmir, and this is first organization who have learned to work on the worker issue. The critical condition is that the workers have no idea about the trade union. They don't have any idea about the trade union laws, and they don't have any connection with any trade union in Pakistan or elsewhere. So this is very important that we can work on the trade union network, especially between Alam Kashmir, Jaldi Pakistan, and other Indian part of Kashmir, because this can be a good initiative for the welfare of the workers, and to explore the situation, and to explore the hardship which is facing the workers in all regions, and Labor Education Foundation have a plan to work on this. So we organized the workers' relative consciousness in Rawalpindi, and this on 23rd of June 2014, just recently, and I have already sent a report from their report about this consciousness. This consciousness was welcomed by all labor organizations, and they expressed their view that this is very good initiative, and they are very happy that this is only organization who have planned to work on the workers issue, and around 150 representatives from different associations attended this conference, and they have shared their views, and they were very much happy. I also discussed about the trade union internationally in Pakistan, and I assured them that we will work with the organization, and their major demand was that they want that this process should be continued, and they get some knowledge about the So I had this short report about the situation, and maybe scholars from the Education Foundation will share the whole situation. I have already said a detailed report about the trade union situation in Azad Kashmir and about the workers' unity conscious. And I hope that all of you, especially who are working in an international network, will take it a very serious issue. And we are very much optimistic that we will continue this work for the support of the workers in Azad Kashmir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have 2 minutes if you want.
All right, so shall we listen to the Indian side and then we discuss everything to you or Okay, I'll try to make it simple. As our brother, comrade from Kashmir, which is under Pakistan, said the situation in that part of Kashmir. So the Kashmir, which is under Indian occupation, has 3 main divisions, we can say. One is Jammu, and the other is the Kashmir division, and then the third one is the Ladakh division. I will quickly try to describe a little bit about what labor in Kashmir means and what are the current problems workers are facing, and then also what is the initiative taken by workers in terms of to change their situation. First of all, whenever we talk about Kashmir, there is a talk about the political struggle in Kashmir, which is very genuine. But in this struggle, what is not emerging is the repression of working class workers in Kashmir. And 6 or 7 years back, AMRC, and I went from AMRC to actually go to Kashmir and try to understand what is the class struggle, if any, within the Kashmir context. And that's how we met Talat, and we also decided, let's look at how can we discuss it more in terms of class struggle. So it is not merely as, of course it's people's aspiration, but independence is not only political independence. Independence is also like who is ruling. We don't want capitalists ruling people. So we also want a clear class struggle. So the class consciousness. Briefly, Kashmir, the Indian part of Kashmir has a population of 10 million, and majority of workers are in agriculture sector. So it is predominantly an agriculture society yet. So then where are most of the people employed? There is a large part of the population is also dependent on tourism, because a lot of service providing to the tourists during the tourist season. You have houseboats and many other related services which caters to the tourism. But it's always their livelihood is always threatened because of the situation in Kashmir. So they're struggling very hard. Sometimes tourists don't come because of the conflict. There is always a drastic reduction of tourist flows. Kashmir also has a lot of workers who are engaged in traditional handicrafts. There are a lot of shawl making, there is a lot of very fine art from Kashmir, which men and women both are engaged in. And there is a very specific exploitation of these workers, because the people who make shawls, especially many women in the villages, it is a very tough work, and they have to spend a lot of time and energy. It's intricate needlework. Even many of them lose their eyesight. But the amount of money they are paid is very low. And who makes money in this process are the middlemen and all the big shawl makers. So there is also, we are looking at how can we now engage these women in some kind of a cooperative, and how can these women become part of the trade union movement, basically. So a trade union movement, how can it be inclusive of all the marginalized workers in Jammu and Kashmir? Right now, what is happening in Jammu and Kashmir, there is a lot of group of workers who are very marginalized. There are shawl makers, there are people who are artisans, there are people who are handicraft making. So there are a lot of marginalized workers who remain invisible also. Yeah? And then there is a large section which our comrade was talking about, is the government employees, who work for state. In Pakistan, Kashmir, they work for Pakistan state. In Indian side, they work indirectly under the Indian state. So these can be people who are providing essential services, hospital workers, teachers. They have a union, but the union organizing is continuously under pressure, because, it is the largest militarized zone on earth. There are more than 500,000 army, Indian army stationed there. I don't know about the Pakistan side, but it seems it is the largest militarized zone on earth. There are more soldiers per person than anywhere on the world. So it's like a nuclear flashpoint. So organizing under these conditions is very difficult. And the repression of organizing is, you cannot go, you can be taken up, trade union leaders can be routinely taken up and beaten up anytime. So this group of workers, even though they are structurally better organized compared to like the other marginalized workers, but to organize any trade union activities in the past decade, 2 decades, is becoming very difficult. State repression, plus repression from the armed forces, plus repression from the state police. So this is becoming very difficult. And lastly, and which has emerged as a major issue right now, is the problems of the migrant workers. There are, one is like, there is problems of the Kashmiri workers who are working in different sectors, marginalization of these workers. And then there are at least 250,000 to 500,000 estimated. Some people estimate more because nobody keeps the record. These are people who come from poor parts of India, like Bihar, West Bengal, very impoverished workers who go and work in Kashmir. And there is a xenophobia against those workers. They are not treated well. Many times they are targeted by army or so-called militants. So they are very low paid. They live in very miserable conditions. And they are doing the work which Kashmiris don't do nowadays, like plucking of apples, working in the fields. But there is absolutely nothing. Even though you see, the irony is many Kashmiris are suffering themselves, but they don't see them as humans also sometimes. So there is even more suffrage of these migrant workers who come predominantly in the summer months. One more thing I have to specify, because Kashmir consists of diverse group of populations. And one of the populations which I have seen is suffering a lot is, in Kashmir there is valley where people live on the plains, and then there are hills, people live on the hills, we call them Gujars, and there is some kind of a tribal people. So in past, when I was young, when I grew up lived in Kashmir, we used to go up the hills, and they were self-sustained community. Like they are like, what do you call it?
They move from one place to another. So nomadic tribes, yes, nomadic people, and they would grow enough to sustain themselves, and they would grow mostly corn, and we would go and eat with them. They would make corn tortillas, something like that. And just last year I went up there and I had those childhood memories, and I asked them, can we eat those corn tortillas again? And then they said, no, we don't anymore because we can't grow corn. We lost it, and it seems now they have completely lost that lifestyle which they used to have. And they are making rotis of very fine atta. You know, the food has changed completely. Which the nutrition level, because they, for thousands of years, they have been growing up on a particular kind of food, and which is making them very uniquely adapted to that environment. And then I said, okay, now what do you do? They said suddenly there is money has become very important in our society. Things which were available in society as a common good, common good would include where you could send your animals to pasture. Common good would include common land tilling. That has completely changed. Now they need money. They have to buy food, they have to buy education for their children, they have to buy even healthcare. So they are now going down to cities for manual labor. And very badly paid, and the whole fabric of the society, their society, is completely changing now. So this is something I feel at some point of time when we look at the integrated, we have to look at these workers who are becoming marginalized. And in my understanding, the government employees are the best placed right now to form a trade union. They have a trade union, but to look after all the marginalized workers, because they have the numbers and the power. But at some point of time, they have to help other groups of trade union to come into some kind of labor organizations. And I look at artisans and those people who make shawls. They are very marginalized, especially women there, who lose their eyesight completely and are not paid well. And I look at migrant workers. We cannot leave them out in this, even though they are not Kashmiris, but they are contributing a lot to the society in Kashmir by providing. How can we build a joint struggle with them, because they are 250 to 500,000, plus these workers who are at the fringes of these, who come down for labor. How can their life be full of dignity again? So this was about the situation, but in terms of action at ground, there is, as in Pakistan, there is a trade union in Kashmir which is predominantly of the government employees, but it is very progressive trade union. They are quite left-wing people there, which are not only thinking about their own sector, but are looking at the labor solidarity as a whole. We had almost planned to get someone here, but because there was election in Kashmir, so the situation has become bad. There is repression again. So people were scared, not of organizing, but not to come in limelight, basically. So they want to keep low. So if we have to start this process, we have to start at a very low key level. That's what we are also thinking like this. The gender, we also want to understand what are the gender dimensions of the labor struggle in Kashmir. Because many times we miss out. We know how men are fighting, but there is also equal participation from women also. In fields, women are working equally. In shawl making, there are women working already. As state employees, as teachers, they are all there. But when it comes to struggle, we only see men. So what happens to the women? Why they are not taking part? So we are also trying to look at it, because we want an equal struggle, equal platform for everybody. So this is the discussion we had started, and most probably we will have first workshop in Kashmir this year, August, September, October. We don't know yet, We're just waiting for the right opportunity and not to make it just go there and quietly discuss with the grassroots. So we are lucky to have some young people engaged. We invited one of the persons, Feroz is his name, he came, and that he has a network of youth. I think that we also need to start the political education, with these youth, because for past 20 years there is nothing like this happening. We only have about conflict and all those things. So we need to go and start this discourse on organizing how people can regain the bargaining power within the society first. Because there is unequal bargaining power within the society. There are elites within Kashmir also. So how can we deal with those situations? That is my brief report. If you have any questions, and we can discuss further.
So, Khalid, that's because you are very close to us in that sense, in labor education. We have listened to both sides of report, ground report. It's not complete, but I mean as much we could. And you already have worked in Pakistan inside Kashmir. So what do you suggest in outer place to start the debate? What we have to do?
Yes, I think it's first of all it's important to collect the information. We have some information, but we need to have some more information from the ground. And there are different levels of exploitation going on with the workers. I think keeping in mind the different dimensions which can be addressed. For example, the gender aspect, for example, the migrant workers, for example, the informal sector workers, and the traditional workers. I think we have to have a kind of information sharing on both sides. Maybe the same kind of work is going on both sides. I can see that there might be some migrant workers in Azad Kashmir as well, in Pakistani control. We do have migrant workers, some Pakhtuns and some other. They are Afghanis and Pashtuns. They are working there, maybe in the construction of roads, and all this kind of work is being done there. And of course, there are traditional workers. Shawl making is going on in that part of Kashmir as well. So there are commonalities in this kind of work, and we need to share this information on the both sides. Whatever networks are available, we need to have some people who share these thoughts with us, who are of the same view that we should work on both sides and we should share information. And then I think we need to maybe build capacity of few people on both sides so that they are able to organize more people. It's a very difficult area to work in, we all know. Military establishment is involved on both sides, and it's not that easy. Whatever you are doing there is being monitored by the states on both sides, by India and Pakistan. Then it's of course, but the thing is that on labor issues, there is no such initiative. So it will be a new initiative kind of thing. And whatever I have seen there is willingness among the people, at least on the side controlled by Pakistan. I see the willingness. What Nisar Shah was saying about this conference that we organized, there were people, I couldn't go there, but I have pictures from that conference, and maybe later on we can show pictures there. There were people who were happy to come and who are willing to be organized in one platform. We need support from the people outside Kashmir, from the International Trade Union movement, of course, so that we can minimize the risk involved as well. This is very important to have a solidarity campaign with the workers of Kashmir. So it will be, of course, it will be very political at the same time, but I think we have a little bit margin in that we can say that we are only working on the workers' rights issue. Like Nisar explained, there are issues, workers on a strike, but the government is saying we have nothing in our hand, we cannot solve your problems. There is no labor court in whole Kashmir controlled by Pakistan. So where should workers go? So if these kind of issues are raised, and if we have international solidarity as well, I think the workers on both sides can come together. And then in the future we can have combined meetings. If there is a possibility to organize somewhere around the world, we can do that as well. But I think, information sharing, capacity building, solidarity, so these kind of steps I see we can start with.
We want yours.
My thoughts.
For us, you are the biggest role model. It's like outside Kashmir and the trade union, nobody has reached like what you have reached.
Well, my thoughts really are that so far the people of Kashmir, there's large numbers of them in my city, in Bradford, Rochdale, other parts of the country. They have been involved, but they're mainly involved with the Kashmiri movement for independence, rather than this is the first meeting we attended, where there's a discussion taking place that we should help and assist, and capacity building in terms of people have a better understanding. And I think most of the other trade union movements in like Brazil, Mexico, Venezuela, where we've been working with them for over 30 years, and it's taken a long, long time for them to get recognized as support. Even in Cuba, for example, we have what we call the Cuban Five. There were 5 people in the Cuban trade unions. They were accused of being spies, and they've been in prison for 30 years. Even one of them actually died in prison. And the steel workers and ours, in solidarity, we've been working for them nearly 6-7 years. And this year we're having actually independent court in London, which is costing maybe about £1 million or so, and basically to deliver a verdict to embarrass the Obama and the American government, because they're the ones who keep them in prison. Now, issue of Kashmir is going to take a long, long time. But what I'm surprised is that we have lots of people in the trade unions, in the UK, and other parts of Europe as well who are Kashmiris. Nobody's ever raised that issue. Now, I've been involved as a youngster in the anti-apartheid movement. I've been involved with the Palestinian cause, for example, and I also involved the Kashmiri issue. I get involved not because I'm a Kashmiri myself, but descent, because there's injustice taking place and there's wrongdoings. And as a socialist, as a trade unionist over the years, I've stood by the concept that you must fight injustices wherever they take place, whether it be in Kashmir, whether it be in Palestine or South Africa. And I think it's a movement that you need to start. And like it was said that somebody didn't know where Kashmir was. I think we need to actually have a campaign of awareness amongst people. Because, let's say there's a major problem with mental health issues in the UK. But nobody's interested in mental issues. There's so many people suffering. And I had to find out recently about mental health issues because a friend of mine ended up with a mental illness. And same thing, Kashmir, people don't know because it's not interest to them. We've got to generate the interest. And if I give you an example, for the last 5 years or 30 years and we've been campaigning, the TUC changed its position on Palestine after 30 years because there was a campaign by the Israeli lobby to block it. And the first time the TUC delegation is going to go, visit Gaza is going to be end of November this year, and I'll be part of that visit along with executive members. But that's after 30 years. And even when we've been trying to organize, Egyptian government has blocked us. They're not prepared to allow us to go through Egypt. And then now we are literally in the hands of the Egyptian army. The government is there. So we've been working with the Israeli government to ask government to give us access to Gaza through Israel. They've been very reluctant. They eventually have agreed. But there's been a massive lobby by the Jewish lobby within England. They have been dictating to us what we should do, for example, that we shouldn't go to Gaza first, we should go to Israel, Tel Aviv. And of course, the last few days we've seen some major incidents, and I think the peace process is put back by 30 years or longer. Or if ever it's going to take place, I think it's a very difficult situation. Now in Kashmir, the trade union movement is willing to work, they will help and assist. But you see, over the years, the trade union movement in the UK particularly is very careful, and so is the Europeans. We've got major domestic issues because there's a general election taking place next year in May. And if there isn't the re-election of the Labour Party, then you're going to see a massive attack on the trade union movement. And the trade union movement in the UK is devoting all its resources, including my own union, in ensuring that we have a Labour victory. Now, even though we may have a Labour victory, we are not convinced the Labour Party, in fact, is going to give us the legislation that we require. Because workers worldwide, we need a political wing in every country, in Kashmir, whether it be on the Indian side or the Pakistani side. And there is that link. There is no political party is there to work workers, for example. And I had the privilege of visiting Pakistan and Kashmir, met some of the trade unions there. And of course, I have a concern, and the trade union in the UK has a concern. There's lots of organizations which are down on paper as organizations. And they have been funded in the past, but there's a reluctance. People actually want to see some genuine work being done if they're going to fund or help and assist. And wherever there's a struggle taking place, they will come in, they will make an intervention to help and assist. But usually the first question is, what's the membership of this organization? What are they doing for women, for example? Education of young girls, for example. Are these organizations actually sectarian in terms of religious basis, how they work, etc.? And of course, whether there's exploitation, they want to put a stop to it. But if you look at just the signal issue of Palestine, for example, and the de-investment in the Gaza Strip, for example, and the areas, occupied territories that take place, it's been very successful worldwide. And in Kashmir, it actually needs some thought. All the Kashmiri organizations that I'm aware of, who have been operating for the last 20, 30 years, this seems to be centered on one single issue, which is the atrocities that have been committed and seeking independence from India and Pakistan. And let's not kid ourselves, it's not going to be an easy solution. If I was to start with India, if India gave independence tomorrow to Kashmir, you will have 30 other demands of the rest of India. You'll see India splitting up, like Iraq is splitting up. So India is not going to concede to the breaking up of Kashmir or giving independence to it. It's going to have to be fought, it's going to have to be won, there's going to be a massive political organization. The organizations here in Britain who are fighting, there's so many different ones that, I'm a Kashmirian, I'm frankly saying to them, look, you need one umbrella body to represent you all. You need to have a common agenda that you can approach trade unions, because in Britain and in Europe, the Kashmiri movement is not going to succeed unless they have a common agenda, they come under one umbrella. Because if I go to the TUC and say, well, look, we would like some help assistance, and you go tomorrow and day after, our sister from Sweden goes there, they're not going to entertain us all. It's got to be one organization, and there's got to be a common cause, common agenda. And of course, I've been urging everybody over the years. They said, look, what you need to do is establish an organization that will work with trade unions for the issues in Kashmir, occupied Kashmir, Pakistan side, and India. I think this stage, that's the only observations I would make. I think there are huge problems, major problems. My position is very much symbolic. The president, in fact, doesn't have any aircraft carriers or any bombers to order, You have to work with other people, you can influence. So I always say to people, I say, look, I have the power to influence thinkers, but the thinking, the thought, formulas you come with, they've got to be workable, and then you have to learn the art of compromise. And Kashmiri organizations, in fact, over the years, and as a trade unionist over the years, I've sat down in many negotiations, and I walked in making 100% demand, walked out getting nothing whatsoever. But I've had to live with that because I want to be able to walk back in the same room in 3 months' time, 4 months' time. And I think Kashmiri people, there's so much they can do by joining trade unions, by participating, becoming activists. But you see, at the moment, there isn't that desire of getting involved. My days, back in the 1780s, I got involved because there's injustices taking place. And those injustices still are taking place this day. And I think we need to have a mechanism. We talked about doing something in the Rochdale area, and I think there is something positive we can do. But we really do need to link up in the UK first and then internationally. Of course, we will help and assist in any way we can, but I don't think any organisation, trade union movement, is opening its doors saying, here's funds available like they used to be in the old days, and go away work, because money actually over the year has disappeared, nothing's happened, and I think there is a big concern in the trade union movement in Europe and in the UK as well.
Thank you. Welcome. Anybody?
No, I have one question to you. Then I will give you a little discuss. That, you know, the issue of Biharis in Kashmir. What is the attitude of Kashmiri workers toward that? I know what the political activists, some of the political activists, the approach they have. What is the attitude of common workers, the people who are organizing unions, whether they are government employees union or other unions? I mean, that is continue to find out what they think.
I mean, as I said, they're not seen as fellow workers, first of all. They are seen as very inferior people, because they're very, they are very poor and they live also in very poor conditions. So there are some leadership who has come up with statements that please don't harm them, because like in 2007, 2008 there was a call made, like some people were accused of misbehaving with some women, and then there was a call to remove all of them, so which was resonating. I mean, if you read articles in Kashmir dailies, when anything is written about migrant workers, it's written in a very different tone. You can feel it out. So I think that is to me, we haven't matured as a society yet to build the solidarity. We look very much inwards about our problems, but there is also something which we also create as Kashmiri people. I think our society needs to also recognize, even me sometimes, I didn't realize it till I came out of Kashmir. They remain very invisible people, because they're considered like inferior humans. One is that, and second, I just would like to add a little bit more is, to me, what is very important for us, this struggle, working class, because this movement for independence is already going on there, and there are people who are talking about that. So, okay, and I don't want our movement to be hijacked. What has happened recently in Kashmir is exploitation of people. Exploitation of people is happening both by the states. Yes, there is state repression on both sides, India and Pakistan. But there is also repression because we have elites in the society, people who hold land, people who hold capital, and in case of artisans, people who control market access. And majority of workers are denied their share equitable share. And to deviate, why I was thinking, if we start the struggle to fight first the elites within us and then the national elites to get the complete independence. But we want independence at all levels. It's like the way when India or Pakistan got independence, independence went to elites. I mean, people were never independent. They're still in India, we are struggling to get independence. I mean, people are struggling. So that is the kind of discussion and debate we want at grassroots levels in Kashmir, in both sides, and bringing those people together. As Khalid said correctly, there are artisans both sides. We want to provide a platform who is controlling the whole profits, so that they come and bargain with the first. Getting independence from India may be a far-off process, but I can still control my life with that artisan, so that he doesn't take care. Then we build society from there. That's one thing we should do, basically, and that will unite, because there are very similar struggles on both sides.
Can I contribute?
Yes.
I went there, and obviously I had no union hat on or anything, but I observed it. And I didn't see anybody in soap or apple, orchard fields or whatever. But what I did see was when traveling on the roads, like Pakistani people, all the, we call it ports, ports.
Yeah, what's
Women and all this. It's absolutely similar, that I presume there are other stuff, like very, very poor people working on roads. Now, it's a class issue. And obviously I was traveling with the Siddharth and Nandi and Jammu Rambu to ask them, although they were saying religion, they had absolutely same attitude to what people are wearing Muslim wear. There was no difference in attitude towards them. It was a really class issue. And then they were very poor and they were really degraded and, even if they're working in a road and they can't get away in time, people will horn and people will swear at them. Like that. So I think the picture in there is very, very similar. The other observation I had was, like we are here, and UKIP and BNP saying, get them out, they're migrants. And there are a lot of Afghanis and other refugees in Pakistani-controlled Kashmir. And people started saying there that kick him out, like BNP here. So they expected us to support them, and I think we said, no, what's the difference between the English nationalists trying to kick us Asians or blacks out? So, and that again comes back to probably investment in education, educating people and dialoguing. I think there are external issues and internal issues and issues at many levels.
I think if we come back to college, because you're working with labor education in Pakistan, and we are at an initial stage. So what do you suggest or what do you recommend? So what we can do in a short-term or long-term plannings?
maybe I think if we can have one or two people on each side who are able to collect the information and who are able to communicate with each other and with us from outside as well. And we can, if we are able to support them, if we have enough funds to start with, to support them if they have to travel to some place, if they are giving some time, if we can compensate them in some way, and start collecting information and sharing that. And I mean, for us, we do trade union training courses, and we can do that in Rawalakot or in I will be happy to go to Srinagar. But I mean, in Rawalakot and in Muzaffarabad, we can do that. I mean,
One day.
and likewise, Sanjeev, if they can do in Srinagar or Jammu. And
the problem is
then we need more resources. Yeah, then we have to come out. It's not easy to meet each other there. So
I think to begin with the ground level
Yeah.
work has to be done on both the sides.
So first of all, I think we need to have enough resources to maybe to have few people on both sides. Maybe one on each side or two on each side. Maybe one male and female on each side, so that they are able to collect some information. Yeah, 4 people. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking, and I really like this. I think we can start with like an action research. Basically, you know what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to get what Talat has been saying for many days, and we haven't been able to do. I mean, we have some information, but we don't have a detailed.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You know, but it should be action, not an academic research.
Yeah.
But more action research, because you know what I was talking with the groups in Kashmir, we said we can do the research, but we go to each district like Kupwara, Pulwama, and they will have those focus group discussions with them, and then discuss these, you know, have these study circles, discuss the issue of migrant workers or artisans and each topic, you know, but get a baseline data first, basically.
Yeah, so if we can start with that, and then we can select a group of people from that information that we have, and then we can do the trade union training courses with them. And at the same time, I think, like Nisar mentioned, there is a strike going on. If we have information of that strike, and if we can give some statement from here in favor of the workers, whatever their demands are, that will also boost up the morale there. So these kind of action at the same time solidarity actions can be taken. I think that is.
I think, as you said, it's some is short term and some long term. The most short, it must be kind of website we built, and there's information what's going on in a archive to the current news, because there's a strike going on, teacher strike in Gilgit, and we don't know what's in Azad Kashmir. Don't know each other. I mean, what's going on? Same in Indian side of Kashmir. So minimum platform of the state, so where all the union information is there, so the people can exchange and give the solidarity to each other. I think that is the totally bottom line. But
the existing trade unions, both sides, they're not being able to do any of the things that you said. Is it possible to build on something that is there, or do we
the thing is, Kashmir is divided so much. You know, Indian side, as Sanjeev said, is Ladakh is a Buddhist, Jammu is Hindu, Kashmir Valley is Muslim. So 60-70s of division is so deep, and also more politics as well. In same Pakistani side of Kashmir, it's Azad Kashmir, so-called own autonomous region, but there's a big part, Gilgit and Baltistan. It's like 25% of the state. And
so up to now, there is no work at all from this perspective?
No. That's why we are here.
There are associations, but I mean, they are working in isolation there. They are. I mean, there is no support from outside, from the trade unions from Pakistan are not going to that part of Kashmir to support their struggle, whatever is going on there. And then the majority of workers are actually not in the public sector or service. Majority of workers are in the informal economy. There are agriculture workers, artisans, and the homeless workers. Yeah. So and they are not organized in any way. So that is also important to get that kind of information and to work with them.
But also, Sujata, this vision, when we were in Kashmir, for past 15, 20 years, this left-wing discussion, debates about building a progressive labor movement has not happened at all. I wouldn't say there was not. There has been socialist movements in Kashmir, in 1930s. In fact, Sheikh Abdullah was himself a big socialist. But we didn't have for a long time this discussion and debate. When I met Talat and also Farooq, first time we met in Sweden.
Yeah.
At that time, this was like, okay, there is an idea where we haven't looked at class struggle in Kashmir altogether for a long time now. Because it has been a very monolithic dialogue on freedom, where it is considered everybody seeking freedom is at the same power level. We never discussed what is the power structure within the society in Kashmir, how workers are being exploited, how women are placed, how women workers. We didn't look at that. And then it was an interesting discussion. We were looking, okay, we have a common ground. There is an exploitation beyond the nationalistic exploitation, in the structure of the society.
Yes, after the baseline, you have to come up with a strategic plan in which the two groups are in the same direction.
Yes.
Because it's really what you call that, there are so many things to do.
Yeah.
The organize the class building and the political side. But you have to sit down and get some groups inside and have them, ask them what do they want.
Yes.
It's part of the empowering.
I just
Go into that direction.
I want you to add, when you were discussing with teachers' unions in Sweden, in international work, and what they think about Sweden, what they think about Kashmir. Can you just explain? That's the perspective we have to see as well.
Yes, I have been talking to the teachers' union to ask if they have any work, if they're working in Kashmir area, and they kind of said, well, this is the most undemocratic country with most military zones of the world. It's too dangerous and it's too difficult. We have to start from outside on other countries to and then when it's better or more democratic come in because it's too dangerous and things. But there are locally in Sweden there are people working in Pakistan. So, and they don't agree. So, but I see when I talk to the region, that's what they answer right now. So I don't know, but I'm trying to influence them to.
One of the, I don't know if it's what I mentioned it anyway. One of the things that I have experienced is we've tried to engage with Pakistani left. What's left of it? It was strong that word. And Indian left. Now, Indian left and Pakistani left, their perspective on Kashmir is very interesting, in a sense that Indian left would fight for people's rights and whatever, even downwards. Yeah. But when it comes to Kashmir, Indian left's perspective is as good as Congress and BJP's. And then the same with Pakistani left. When it comes to Pakistan, yes. But when it comes to Kashmir, we had that discussion with Malal and one or two others. Their perspective is as aggressive. They've again with the left, even with the left and communists, there's a colonial relationship. So
case.
You see, we saw that with the Israeli trade unions, for example, that where the trade union movement in the UK and in Europe worked very closely with the Israeli trade unions, because the Israeli trade unions said they were really wanting to help and assist the Palestinian trade unions. The fact is they were not. They're biased towards the government, always has been. And this is why this link has now been severed and broken after many, many years. In terms of, the ideas, where do you make a start? Because we've got to make a start somewhere. I think one of the things that needs is that we need news filtering out about the struggles that which are taking place. And I think they can be done quite cost effectively on social media nowadays, like Twitter, for example, like Facebook. And we don't see, like the 38 Degrees campaign that you have seen, and these petitions are raised from there, and message gets out very quickly. And some of those struggles amongst teaching unions, civil service unions, whether it be Kashmir, one side or the other, information needs to filter through. And I think over here, we do need people who are committed, who are against atrocities. They want to see the establishment of independent trade unions with both sides of Kashmir, and help and assist people to have proper democratic structures. And I agree, by the way, it's very difficult in terms of a lot of the teaching unions, others in Kashmir, other parts of it. The government does have a lot of control in terms of you play the game, otherwise you'll be out of a job. And we see those threats in Europe taking place, never mind over there. And I think it's that it's got to be low profile, but the news needs to filter out. Because, sometimes there's a dispute taking place. And, if you give you an example, we had news from Canada. There was a steelworkers on strike. And we got the news here, it was circulated to all the branches. And we've got some within the United Union, 9,000 branches. And somebody sent £50, somebody sent... So they managed to raise £150,000 with the dispute. Now, that's a solidarity fund. Similarly, when we had news coming through Bangladesh, with the Rana Plaza collapse, the damage they've done, we send lots of solidarity funds, help and assist textile unions to establish themselves. And I think it's something that news needs to come out first, and where solidarity can be built on. It doesn't matter what it is, in terms of one side or the other Kashmir. And so they need some seed funding, how to get this off the ground. And I think if they look for small funding, there will be organizations who will be willing to help and assist. But if I told you that we started off many, many years ago, now for the last 2 years, my own union, Unison, for example, we sending delegations to Gaza every 6 months, and we sending up to 20 people. Those 20 people go and see for themselves. They come back, and they are going to every branch meeting, public meeting, and they are saying, look, I went there and I saw this, I witnessed this, and this is what's wrong. People actually are coming on board. So now the Israeli lobby is totally neutralized. And suddenly now the Palestinian movement actually is properly funded by the trade union movement, by what they call Friends of Palestine, where you pay an affiliation fee of £50 or £100, or if you're a national organization, about £500, £1,000. So now if you look at Palestinian organization, it's self-funding. Similarly, I think you need something in Europe, starting maybe in the UK and then expanding other parts of it in Sweden. Because Swedish trade unions, German trade unions, tremendous amount of funding they're providing to Palestine at the moment. Allah help and support. But, some people who are kind of committed to Kashmir, you need those to make a start. And then you find there's lots of well-wishers inside who would be able to open the doors for you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
I think you were mentioning about you taking some movement from Bombay to Kashmir. Will you want to talk about that? Okay.
I just want to know, because in the Skype statement, the person was saying that the whole Kashmir is in 4 blocks, and 2 is in Pakistan, 1 is in India, and other one is China. So is there anything any speaker can say? What is the situation in Chinese part?
very frankly, that's dispute between Kashmir and East Pakistan. It's not China came in 1948. That dispute is more than that. But anyway, there is no population there, but it's already. So, Shamas, I think we missed your presentation.
First point, it is not relevant anymore.
Okay. All right. Thank
I'm
you.
trying to find out some pictures of that strike which is going on now.
Okay.
Well, I think I have.
I have a few pictures from the demonstration there actually.
You said you were going to show.
Yeah, and pictures from the conference as well. So maybe we can, yeah.
It's easy
How
for you
can we show this?
It's easy for you to access.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
That's the skills of Kargil.
this is the conference.
You see, what goes down well in the UK is when the workers are on strike outside the factory gates or they're demonstrating, and you find that they actually are more in tune. People respond to those. People in struggle.
I think they have those pictures as well. Have you got some more?
Yeah, this is from the rally of the workers. The health department workers are on strike.
Because the one I had, there were large number of women.
Yeah, this is, these are women.
And they are wearing red burqas, red scarves.
They are wearing white scarves, they were red flags.
There is another demonstration that everybody is wearing red scarves.
Okay.
Well, I can't find it here, sorry.
I just wanted to say one thing. I think what we said, in terms of how one goes ahead, I think it's very, very important. But I think one needs to realize that, I think all of us know, but we just foreground it, that the governments right now are in a completely belligerent mood, both especially Indian government. And the latest ID report that they have circulated saying how NGOs are retarding the development and growth of. So basically, they are out to create problems for anything that seems progressive. And Kashmir is an issue that is like, that's especially to the present government, it is like their most favorite issue to bash up as many. So I think we need to be very, very careful of how we go ahead. And I'm sure we are, all of us, but I'm just saying, in order to foreground it, especially given the current government, which is just out to smash anything that even seems like a Hindu-Muslim, remotely Hindu-Muslim solidarity, Hindu-Muslim whatever, and that's how they will frame it, or however we frame it. So one just needs to be careful about that. That's,
Okay. I think it's we just end. Thank you very much for everyone. And it's just a beginning, so what we do is try to make some sort of report of this, and then we see how we go steps. So maybe we can inform.
The first thing we can agree is baseline study. Yes. Basically, and the website that at least these people and stuff. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay, I think it'd be a good idea if you have a group picture maybe.
Yeah.
Some flags in front of us. Red scarves. Red scarves.
I think it's a very, very important.